All right, for the third tetrad in the tetrad project, I wanted to look at as my electronic invention, the idea of Google Classroom. Coming from kindergarten, I had no idea what Google Classroom was all about until last year, and it has revolutionized my teaching practice for a number of different reasons, which some of which will sort of pop out through this exploration. So one of the things that I think is really awesome about Google Classroom is it allows us to go paperless. So for those of you who haven't used Google Classroom, I'll go back here for just a quick second. At the top, you'll see History of Psychology. That would be a class. When you would click into that, there would be a stream where you could post announcements, you can post resources, you can make reminders. There's an assignment tab where you can upload all the different types of assignments that you might want to give students, whether it's anything from a Google Doc or a series of resources that they need to go through and look at with some questions to answer. You can integrate Google Forms into it. And then you've got your list of all your students attached into it. So it's kind of a great way to kind of move away from notebooks and into the 21st century. So what does Google Classroom itself enhance? I'm trying to move a little quicker in some of these tetrads now. So the idea is that it's providing a central hub for both teaching and learning, where you as a teacher can cite pretty much all of your digital work, and students can engage in learning throughout the day. It's great because it organizes products, conversations, resources all into one place. It extends learning beyond the four walls of the classroom and allows students to engage in learning at home, on the bus, wherever they have digital access. But that can be something that is a challenge with Google Classroom, because kids do need to be able to have access to devices regularly, and they need to have Wi-Fi. And in the community that I service, there are some students who really struggle with that. Now we do have uh, free Wi-Fi in all of our schools now in Peel District School Board. So kids who don't have it at home can certainly stay after school and continue to work throughout the school building. But that can be a problem depending on your students' digital access or Wi-Fi access, and if they don't have their own devices. The other thing is that online learning is different from analog, which we'll explore a little bit later on in the tetrad. It's less hands-on, but it allows kids to easily revisit different topics, come back to assignments when they're late. It does mark when they're late, but as my students know, it's okay to be late, but when you hand it better be darn good. And the other great thing about Google Classroom, it just really helps you organize. There's no more lost papers, no more coffee stains, no more the dog ate my homework. Everything there is all cited in one handy dandy little spot. So what's the reversal here? So kids with tech addiction can absolutely get stuck in here and go down a million different rabbit holes and end up with not very much production. It also has some severe impact on graphomotor and oral communication skills, because when we're citing most of the work into the digital zone, they're not writing anymore. They may or may not be talking to each other. If the work is being produced in the digital formats. So we're definitely, the social interaction loss may or may not be a thing. It's definitely a different type of social interaction. Kids are commenting on each other's work in Google Classroom. You can set things in different ways to share work with each other and provide peer assessment and peer feedback along the way in Google Classroom, depending on the different types of assignments that you're posting, but the human contact part is maybe not there anymore. it absolutely increases our dependency on our communications providers, our TELUS, our Bell, our our wireless providers are definitely reaping the benefits of moving our learning into online classrooms and digital classrooms. The retrievals. So going back in history, what did we do before Google Classroom? Well, we definitely used our duotangs and notebooks a lot more. I haven't been the last 2 years. I actually did purchase a few last year, and then this year I decided not to purchase any at all. I'm not photocopying anything anymore, really, so there was no need for duotangs. All of those great resources and online worksheets can often be done online and submitted online, which is fantastic. We don't have to buy those very expensive textbooks anymore. Instead of spending $60, $70, $80, $90 on a textbook that might last a couple of years, I'm spending nothing because Google Classroom is free. Libraries would have been maybe used a bit more or differently in the era before Google Classroom. So instead of being able to go into Google Classroom to find the YouTube video or the Khan Academy video to teach, to reinforce the concept, some math concept, they would have had to go into the library and find a book on it, perhaps. Going even further back, the idea of sort of traditional classrooms with the slates and, the primers with the sage on the stage providing you with the information, definitely not happening in Google Classroom mode now. And then going even further back, the idea of oral storytelling and that connection with an oral teacher or parent. The idea of listening and observing to get your education is definitely not happening the same way anymore. So what is made obsolete with Google Classroom? Some good things that are made obsolete is definitely not having to create class websites anymore, which was a very onerous and time-consuming task for anyone who tried to get into that a few years ago. Even just doing a class blog and trying to keep up with that is no longer necessary because you can cite all of that information in Google Classroom, and it's private. So Google Classroom is only for the students who are listed into the Google Classroom who have permission to be in there, whereas a website might be more public. So it definitely eliminates, the problems with pictures going up and if the student has media permission forms filled out, et cetera, and just the time and the coding skills that you might need to actually put together a really good website. We don't need to get those expensive textbooks anymore. We can sometimes find PDFs or digital open source materials available to us and use our budget for other types of endeavors, which might be a little bit more bang for our buck. Another nice thing is we don't have those scattered, tattered mark books anymore because with Google Classroom we can keep track of marks in very simple and easy ways. There's some spreadsheet functionality there that where you can basically, if you've marked it in Google Classroom, you can just create a spreadsheet with all those marks in one fell swoop, which is really handy. It means that notebooks are more for fun now rather than a must do. Some other things that have gone obsolete, like are other types of, learning hubs like Edmodo. I know some people still are using Edmodo, but I can see that sort of dying a slow death. It's very, very similar to Google Classroom, but Google is free and has, I guess, a little bit more simplicity that lots of teachers prefer. I wonder too if whether Moodle is on the chopping block because even though we're using it with our class, there are some things about Moodle that I find very frustrating. Definitely the idea of tidier lockers, not as much stuff in there, and emptier school desks might make your classroom a little bit more appealing. So here's some of the insights. Flipped learning is better, ease of assessment's better, it's cheaper, Doesn't replace hands-on learning. It can be isolating, but there's definitely some sustainability that is benefited, and lots of